Hey, good morning to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack here. Monday now, the 19th of May, 2025. Great to be back with you after about a week of doing some stuff with the family and other adventures going on, including I'm traveling again. You can tell that's not my office back there at a hotel in Wichita, Kansas. I'll explain why. If you've been following my work the last couple of years, you know why, but we'll get to that. The first thing, though, there are three things that I want you to know, maybe even a couple more than that, ahead of this year's hurricane season. I want to talk about that. And then we'll take a little bit of a peek as to what might or might not be happening out there. I mean, really, we've got our hands full enough with severe weather. Hint, hint, that's why I'm at a hotel room. We don't have to worry about hurricanes too much right now, but it's coming. Hurricane season begins June 1st, and my job, at least a part of it, is to keep you aware on the front side with the best information that I can present to you, that I can then arm you to be ready ahead of what might be coming our way. We have 6 months, June through November, that we have to keep up with this stuff. So let's make sure we're all together on the same page. All right, let's drop me out of the frame and get started. My good friend Dylan Federico posted this. First tropical wave, that is a piece of energy, a little trough of low pressure in the atmosphere. It looks like an inverted trough on a weather map, actually, but it's like a little seedling, and it moves out into the Atlantic, about 100 of these a year from Africa, and they can sometimes become the focusing mechanism for what we call tropical cyclogenesis. Just a fancy schmancy way of saying, again, it's a seedling for something to grow. This situation, though, and in what we're seeing out here, no development is expected. Other people talking about it, Alan Snyder mentioning the TAFB, Tropical Analysis and Forecast Branch. This is where you can see these tropical waves noted on maps, and there it is right there. It's tiny, it's a little line out there, but that's the little impulse coming off at a fairly low latitude, and it'll traverse the Atlantic. Never know, it might make it over here to the eastern Pacific, where climatology would suggest we would see development. But it is interesting that we do have that out there, and different people are seeing that, and they watch this stuff just like I do, and I like to point you in the direction of other people that you can rely on for useful, actionable information as well. All right, it's not my internet. I don't own everything, so I like to point you in the direction of other good people that are out there. So again, no worries right now for hurricane development anytime soon. The area that we will watch this time of year is typically going to be Western Caribbean, maybe the waters off in the Southwest Atlantic if you get a front that drags down into there. And if we drop me out of the shot again, I can draw further into the Gulf here where, and I accidentally drew a Mickey Mouse, my bad. Hey, maybe Disney will sponsor an ad or something. Hardy har. But seriously, this is the area. We'll just draw one big area. There we go. No free ads for Disney there, just yellow bad circles. But that's the area that we generally watch this time of year in the Atlantic Basin. The tropical wave is sitting out here, and again, it'll traverse the Atlantic and probably pop out on the East Pac, where conditions are generally more favorable in June than they are in the Atlantic, but you never know. By the way, this band of clouds through here is called the Intertropical Convergence Zone, or ITCZ. You got your trades from the northern hemisphere bumping up against those from the southern. They meet and the air goes up because it can't go down into the ocean, obviously. That's the convergence part, and you get clouds and showers and thunderstorms, and every once in a while, these tropical waves will interact with the ITCZ, pulling in that moisture, and off they go. But that's typically later on in the season. For now, again, the severe weather threat is the biggest problem for us in the lower 48. And as far as the islands go, no problems there. Central America, nothing to worry about anytime soon. So, what are these three things that I want to make sure you are aware of? There are a lot of products from the Weather Service, from the National Hurricane Center. It has gotten more complex over the years. Remember, we didn't have PTC even 10 years ago, I think. I mean, maybe we did. That's my point. There's been a lot of changes. Potential tropical cyclones, that PTC thing is pretty recent. I think 2014 is when we first started doing storm surge watches and warnings, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, point is, there have been a lot of changes over the years. The maps have gotten more complex. The products are trying to be more specific for different hazards. And then different things change with policy and whatever. So I just wanted to point you in the direction of 3 things that I think are important, and then maybe even a couple after that, from the National Hurricane Center's update here on their products and services for the season. Number 1, their experimental cone graphic with a depiction of the inland watches and warnings for the United States. They will again be doing this new version of the map that finally shows inland threats, and that was very useful last year during Helene. They're going to continue this, all right? And it's still experimental. That's why it says that right there. And it may not be available as soon as the current cone graphic due to the time needed to compile and complete the inland watch and warning info. Plus, they got to coordinate with different emergency managers. This is complex. I want you to read this. I'm going to put this document, this is a PDF file, give you some homework here. I'll point you in the direction. You got to do the work, and you can read it and understand what is going on. But yeah, the map does get more complicated. We don't just have the cone of uncertainty or the forecast cone, which has nothing to do with impacts, by the way. But that's the point. These areas, the watches and warnings, do start to address impacts. Watches and warnings for wind, for storm surge, whatever the case may be, it is getting more and more complex. The second thing, and I think this is fantastic, we need this, the inclusion now of U.S. rip current risk for active tropical cyclones. I will pat myself on the back as best I can that over the years I have done a good job of talking about rip current threats even when hurricanes are hundreds of miles away from the U.S. coast and our island nation friends' coasts, because impacts are impacts. You know, you don't need 100-mile-an-hour wind and 10 feet of surge for there to be problems. The waves that come in create these rip currents, and they kill people. And I don't like that. That's not good, obviously. So the National Hurricane Center will be working with different weather forecast offices and other information with wave analysis to tell us, the public, you, me, our families, our co-workers, our neighbors, where the rip current threats are the greatest. So when we have active cyclones out there, the map will then start to feature these different areas. Moderate risk, high risk, etc. That is brilliant. This product right here will save lives. And that is the most important thing. I'm very serious about this. My wife works in the emergency department. She's done so for a couple decades now, and she has seen it. She knows about the grief that families deal with when someone is killed in a rip current. They drown, and it is horrible. This is going to address that. Other people know of such stories too, I'm sure, in their regions. So another very important update from the Hurricane Center. Number 3, the updated issuance criteria for when that old PTC gets issued. And I know this is confusing. What is a potential tropical cyclone and so forth and so on? Basically, the Mark GPT joke there, you know how you say, Chat GPT, boil this down for me, bundle it. A potential tropical cyclone statement, issuance, whatever, is meant to handle cases when there's not a named depression like, TD1 or whatever, or a storm, Andrea, or a hurricane, Hurricane Andrea. You understand? But the models, the guidance, and our eyes tell us one is going to likely form. We need watches and warnings because this is going to form. Think about Helene, think about Michael, think about way back in 1900, the Labor Day hurricane. That would have required, when computer models and, again, our eyes seeing the disturbance, that's going to develop and rapidly develop. We need watches and warnings before it does so. I'm not bundling as well as I hoped, but that's what the PTC covers. There is a potential tropical cyclone. Now let's get the watches and warnings out. They're going to extend that, my point here, to 72 hours. It used to be 48 hours. Now there's going to be an extra day. This should be helpful because we got a lot of people along the coast. That big giant wheel of preparation needs time to get turning. So this is going to be a wonderful, hopefully wonderful addition to their products and update. And then there are others in here, all right? I put top 3 because the internet loves a top 3 countdown, I guess, but whatever. I am going to post this link in the description of today's video, so read these other ones as well. They're not like unimportant or whatever, but I wanted to show you about the top 3. This is pretty cool, though. I should have put this in as a asterisk number 4 or whatever. Probabilistic storm surge for the Hawaiian Islands. I've been out there for Hurricane Lane back in 2018. Luckily, it fell apart before reaching the Hawaiian Islands, but yeah, there's some great new stuff coming out. So be sure to read this document in your off time if you have such a thing in your life. You know what? You could probably feed this into ChatGPT and ask it to summarize it for you if you want to be lazy. And that's fine. We're all busy people. Well, let's move along, shall we? Interesting stuff. I was talking to my friend Dylan, who was mentioned right over there at the top of today's update, right? About this horseshoe shape, especially what's happening in the deep tropics down here, the anomalies, your departures from average through the main development region, creeping back up. And then here is what is so uber important. I love that phrase. The subtropics up here not competing with the deep tropics yet. Now this is May 18th. Today's the 19th. There's always a lag. What is this going to look like August 18th? Maybe everything's filled in. Maybe it's much warmer in the subtropics than the deep tropics. I don't know. But as of right now, this is a look that would suggest that active hurricane season that we are expected. And the other way to look at it, because this is important, there's nothing that we see that says we should have a down season, less hurricanes, less named storms than average. Nothing says that. In fact, this says the opposite, that we should see and expect and prepare for an active hurricane season. That's all we know right now. Where they end up, well, that's what you have me for. And other sources, once stuff does form, we track to see where it goes, right? All through this area, warming has definitely commenced. I remember all the blues that were sitting over here recently. Blues, of course, are your negative anomalies, below average. The Gulf has filled back in and had some blues showing up. So we're getting close now, and this will start to matter in the coming weeks and months, of course. Just wanted to point it out. And there will be, by the way, updates to seasonal forecasts coming out. We have the NOAA forecast that'll be coming out, I think the 25th, something like that, maybe the 22nd. We'll know. The internet will put it out there, believe me. And then Colorado State University will update their forecast, Dr. Klotzbach, I think in the early part of June. And again, all of this tells us the data in front of us. Yeah, we should expect another busy season. But again, we don't know where they're going to end up or what the impacts are going to be. There's nothing that can help us with that right now to any great reliability. Just want to make that clear. Hey, check this out. I want to brag on this too. I didn't make this, but I asked somebody who's very talented to help me with it about 5 years ago. Mr. Will Woodgate, way over here in the UK, crafted up our handy-dandy interactive tracking map available on the HurricaneTrack Insider site, which is what our patrons, our membership community through Patreon, has access to. We build these amazing tools with our community, and Mr. Woodgate crafted up our awesome interactive map that when there's stuff to track, it shows up. Recently, and I thought this was really cool, our good friend and colleague CJ suggested this. Could you add SPC information like layers? And Will said, absolutely. Look at that. That is really cool. And you can change the base map if you want the graphic to look clearer, for example. So we can just go right into, the light mode. Boy, talk about light. It's gone. You can do the ocean mode. There we go. That looks good there. So you can drill down and see exactly where your different areas are, the moderate risk, and the base map. You can put your cities back in there. Open street map. Now you can really zoom in and see, man, look at all these towns that are in the moderate. This is going to be helpful. And it brings me to my next point. Today, there's a moderate risk of all hazards, the big hail, like bigger than your fist, wind-driven hail, the tornadoes that have been very prevalent this year, very dangerous as of late, loss of life recently, very, very tragic. We have to pay attention to this. I know people are going to say, dude, it's in Tornado Alley. People always pay attention. Oh, really? Okay. No, they don't. Unfortunately, we are very distracted people, creatures, right? And we have to be reminded. So please, if you know people in any of these areas here, tell them, look, you got to be paying attention to the weather today, because like that Jaws reference, you're going to ignore it until it swims up and bites you in the you-know-what. So going back to the old standard here of the Storm Prediction Center and reading some of the stuff, man, I mean, the fact that we could see some pretty nasty supercells and a couple of rounds of it, this is definitely the day to pay attention. But if you're on our insider site and you want to look at stuff there, it's all right there for you. This is the day one. You can switch over to day two, which shifts farther south and east and so forth. Now, I'm out here with, as I mentioned, CJ a little bit ago, because he helped encourage Mr. Woodgate to put all this together. We're trying to study hail. That's my big thing this last year or so, because hail is very damaging. The tornadoes are lethal. The hail is lethal to the wallet. And a lot of people are starting to get into this now, not because of me. It's just, it's high time. Seriously, it's been like decades since a really concerted effort to study hail has happened. It damages cars, roofs, crops, livestock, affects aviation. It is a big, big problem, and everybody is paying for it. So last year I said, hey, I want to start studying it myself, add it to my repertoire of hazards from nature. So we have hurricanes, we have hail. For me, that's plenty, believe me. So I've been out here trying to collect the hail, and we did so yesterday over here in parts of Kansas and then in northwest Oklahoma, and it was difficult because it was a very weird day. And I want to show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to drop me out. I'm going to pull up this folder. These are just some different GoPro videos, but this is a nice composite little montage I put together. Look at the drive here. This is a hyperlapse of the drive. That does not look like a severe weather day where you're going to have big supercells. It's all cloudy, low clouds. Temperatures were in the low 70s. Dew points were up there, but it just didn't look or feel right until we drove out from under all of that. And then we finally saw a supercell, but it was putting out big hail, but we couldn't get to it. So it's our first bust of 2025, my fourth expedition to capture hail, and we came up with none. But let me show you this time lapse again. Look at all that traffic. Those are all of the storm chasers leaving Oklahoma to either call it a day or get into Kansas again for the tornado that went close to Greensburg, just north of Pratt, and eventually threatened Hutchinson last night. That was a monster wedge tornado. It'll be interesting to see what the Weather Service says. But this is what we've been doing. Again, that weird kind of gray, misty day. Today, though, it probably is going to be different. And that is why we are out here, CJ and myself, the hail threat. And by the way, those layers are available over here as well. Just wanting you to know. Mr. Woodgate put them all in there. The hail threat, substantial in the pink. That's going to be our main goal today. But we got to watch out for these pesky tornadoes, because your supercell is obviously a rotating updraft. And then you get the mesocyclone that develops. The thing starts to curl up and it gets that hook shape to it. The hail is usually to the north side, and we want to try to get in there and get that hail. But if that tornado does indeed develop and it deviates, we could have some problems. Not just us, but the Ice Chip Project. There's like dozens of scientists out here, some of them from other countries, and they have to be very careful in this as well. They're also driving pretty high-profile vans. And some of the, look at the wind threat for today. This is substantial. They put a hatched area of 45%. And you're talking potentially hurricane force wind. Any hail studies out there are going to be risky today. Me, the IBHS people, the Ice Chip Project, all of us. So if you're chasing out here today, take this very seriously. This is a tough terrain. It's not as flat and easy as central Kansas. And we'll have to do the same. By the way, again, tomorrow, this does shift east and south some, and on we go. As May progresses, the very warm Gulf waters down here feeding that moisture, the return flow around that Bermuda High out here, and then you get these pieces of energy that drop in with southwesterly flow aloft, and the ingredients are there. All right, last thing before I let you go. Yay, I had a few people asking about this, and that makes me very happy. It really does. Are you going to have your tracking map available again this year for purchase? Yes, I am. The 2025 edition is at the printer, being printed as we speak. Probably will be on my doorstep when I get home in a couple of days. It is a beautiful work of art. I designed that map myself many, many, many years ago. Literally drew it by hand in Adobe Illustrator, tracing an old map and then adding in all the details. It's vector art. And for those of you that know graphic design, you know how that works. It's kind of like making computer models for CGI. You add more data points, you get better detail. And it's been around ever since in different iterations. And here it is, the 2025 version. And they will be available. The price will stay the same, $20. I will fold them up, send them to you flat because that saves on shipping. Otherwise, they're going to be like $30 because when you send stuff in a tube, the post office, they hit you hard. It's like, come on. I digress. Yes, they will be available soon. And I want to draw your attention to this down here when you get your map and you buy one and you open it up. Be sure to read that little blurb down there. It is 20 years. We are celebrating 20 years now of being the first to ever stream live during a hurricane way back in 2005. We did it for Dennis first as a test, and then for Katrina, wall to wall. Mike Watkins and myself, we'll talk about this more as we get into July and August, but it's 20 years since we brought the dawn of live streaming from weather to the world. And hurricanes, I don't know if anybody else is doing it in other weather, but I know that we were the first to do it in hurricanes. And of course, that included the first of the remote cams. And we'll talk about that more later. I did a little graphic down there. You'll see it when you get your map. So when they come in, I'll post a link. Whoops, trying to drop me out and sign off here. I'll post a link on our Patreon and a public link and tell you how you can order your paper map. But they're not here yet. Still a few days to go. All right, a lot to cover today. I appreciate you sticking around. CJ and I will be out and about within the next few hours, so be sure to tune in live on our YouTube. Hopefully we have a smoother day today than we did yesterday. We had a gremlin come in there and screw things up. Hey, it happens. You move on and you get ready for the next day, and here we are. But we will be live later today, and you can follow along in whatever capacity. Laptop, tablet, TV, YouTube's everywhere. So follow us there or on our HurricaneTrack Insider site as well. All right? Again, thanks for giving me a part of your day. I appreciate it. Hopefully you learned something. I'm Mark Sudduth from all of us at HurricaneTrack. Again, have a great rest of your Monday. We'll see you later today from the vehicle chasing some storms.